Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Thank you so much, Imran. I've also had the pleasure of meeting and working closely with Imran, with Brother Anas, Brother Yasser, and so many of you. This community should really be already so proud of this CAIR Arizona chapter. I feel like I really don't have to say much, alhamdulillah. And thank you, Linda, for those wonderful words. Very inspiring, and I'm so honored to be the third of the 2/3. Though I have to say, Dr. Jackson is very much a female women's rights activist, so he's kind of the third of the third, makes the final call. He's laughing, so Dr. Jackson, if you weren't, you are now. Alhamdulillah, I'm very honored to be here as well. I do want to share with you a little bit of what we at CAIR-LA have been working on and dealing with, in hopes that you have an understanding of how this chapter and community can potentially grow in terms of civic engagement and protecting civil rights. And I know that's particularly difficult to envision when we feel like we're living in such difficult times, where reasoned dialogue has been replaced by vitriol and bigotry, where we seem to not be able to make sense of much of what is said. And when the moral compass of our country seems to point consistently south, it is a very difficult time. But I'm going to start off by telling you a very quick story. I did grow up in the LA area. I started wearing hijab right before high school. I went to public school, so when I was about 14. Before that, I had become friends with a girl named Rachel. We had been very good friends in junior high, and when we hit high school, we kind of drifted apart. I started wearing hijab, she got blue hair. We were still friends, but we just drifted our ways. And I lost complete touch with Rachel. A few months ago, my sister, who still lives in the area we grew up in, bumped into Rachel at a Whole Foods. Rachel thought my sister was me at first, and when my sister explained, "No, I'm not Ameena, I'm her younger sister," Rachel paused, and tears came to her eyes. And she said, "Well, I was just thinking about Ameena last week." And she told my sister, "I was thinking about Ameena, and I was thinking about how she wore that thing on her head, that scarf, throughout high school. And I was thinking how difficult that may have been for her, and how much strength that required of her. And I think of how strong of a person she must have been for that." Just that simple act. Just that simple act, and it's not unique to me, had such an impact on this person, such that 12, 13 years later, it still brought tears to her eyes. And that is the point I think we as a community have to take home. That our strength is not necessarily in our power or our influence. Our strength is not necessarily in the amount of money we have in our wallets, or what cars we drive, or what jobs we hold. Our strength is being who we are as a Muslim community. That is our largest strength. And if we hold true to our religious character and defend our faith, if we hold true to our constitutional values and our freedoms, that will be the rising star of our entire society. We will make a difference, as Linda said, not just for us, but for everyone. And that is exactly what has brought me and so many of my colleagues to work at CAIR. For it's not just about protecting that which we all hold true to each other, but we're using our time and our talents and the best parts of us to defend our faith and uphold our Constitution, which is the theme for tonight. Because as much as our Constitution protects us, it is our job to rise up and protect the Constitution for everyone. So I want to share with you a few of the cases and stories that we've worked on the last few years. I'm going to start off with a case of a woman who was fighting for her right to wear her hijab at her job. Hijab at her job. Just realized that sounds really fun. How many of you have gone out to LA, the LA area? All of you. What is one of the first places you go to have fun in LA, Orange County? Brooker Street, that's where I work. Disneyland, I'm hearing that. Well, a few years ago, we got a few cases of Muslim women who were applying for jobs or who had already been working at Disneyland and who were told that they could not wear their headscarf anymore or were not given the jobs they were applying for because of their scarves. They were told to essentially work in the back, to take it off, or to go home. That's what they were told. So what did we do? These women came to our office, and what did we do? One woman, she said, I'm not going to take that. She went every day for 8 shifts in a row. And she told them, I'm not taking it off, and I'm certainly not going to go work in the back folding napkins. I applied for this job, I worked in this job, I'm qualified for this job, and I'm going to keep this job. And then she went home every day because they wouldn't allow her to wear her scarf. So what did we do? We helped her file a complaint with the EEOC, but more so than that, every single shift that she went to, whether it was 6:30 in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning, she did not go by herself. We in the community were there. We walked her to her job and we stood outside as she went in. Because we wanted the employer to know, Disney to know, that it's not just about her. This woman has a community behind her, holding her hand and standing up for her rights. Another young woman who was also fighting for her right to wear hijab did the same thing. She said, I'm not going to work in the back, I'm not going to work in the stock room. And what did we do? We helped her to negotiate with Disney. So in fact, she was made the first Disney-made hijab ever and kept her job. Another example, I had a young man come to my office about 2 years ago, and he was interested in getting married. And he was living in the LA area, and he had to go visit his prospective wife in the Midwest. The problem was, he was on the no-fly list. He could not get on a plane. So what we did is we filed a complaint for him. It was denied. Then we filed an appeal for him, and we kept fighting and working until finally, after 2 years of not being allowed on a plane, he was, alhamdulillah, able to fly. And so many of these cases of people being stuck abroad because they can't get on a plane, it's CAIR attorneys across the country who are helping them. In another case, I was told there are 25 mosques in this area, alhamdulillah. At one of our local mosques in California, it's actually the mosque I grew up in, it's actually the mosque I met my husband at. It had applied to rebuild its facilities in 2008. And then in 2010, after two years, the city actually denied its ability to rebuild its facilities, even though the Planning Commission had approved. So we helped them get a DOJ, Department of Justice investigation going. Not only that, we helped them file a lawsuit against the city for denying its ability to rebuild its facilities. And we didn't stop there either. We went into the community, we helped them, we did workshops, we helped to empower them, to let them know that they are not just victims, that we will help them and stand by them to fight for their freedom to worship and fight for their rights. When I first started at CAIR, about 4.5 years ago, I was one of 5 attorneys across the country working for CAIR. I was the 5th. Now, alhamdulillah, 4.5 years later, we have over 25 attorneys working for CAIR around the country, making us the largest Muslim civil rights law firm in the country. CAIR also works heavily on civic engagement issues. Past February, CAIR chapters from around the country went to Washington, D.C. We lobbied over 100 government officials for different things such as immigration reform, against the National Defense Authorization Act, and to protect against racial profiling. In LA, we have taken this to a whole other extent, and also in the entire state of California, where we lobbied and worked with the Sikh community and other communities to pass one of the first state protections for people to practice their religion in the workplace. So, alhamdulillah, this year we were able to get signed into the law the Workplace Religious Freedom Act in California, protecting all communities from discrimination in the workplace. Another major thing we work on is youth empowerment. It is so important to all of us, and I'm sure it goes without saying, that protecting and providing for our youth is one of the most vital duties we as Muslims have. So in California and in other states across the country, we have Muslim youth leadership programs. In the last 7 years, in CAIR-LA alone, we have taken over 75 youth up to the state capitol to learn about lobbying, how to pass laws. And we have had youth come out of these programs and tell us that their lives are changed, that they had no hope, but their lives are changed and they know what they want to do now. And this is definitely something, along with our internship programs, our law clerkship programs, this is something so tangible and doable here in this community. And as Linda said, there are some really critical issues occurring right now in Arizona. And who better to prepare to deal with those issues than our youth? Speaking of our youth, I'm going to end with 2 additional stories that I hope really reflects what we're working at here. Both occurred at workshops I was giving to the community. In the first, there was a young girl about 8 years old. I think she was of Sudanese descent who was wearing a scarf. And she raised her hand during one of my workshops and said to me, "Sister Ameena, what should I do? At school I'm called a terrorist and my scarf is pulled. What should I do about that? What should I say?" And it broke my heart to think that after all these years, of our community being in the society, that we are still having to face these issues. In another situation, I was also giving a workshop about community empowerment and this history of the civil rights movement. And this young woman, about 19 or 20, came up to me afterwards, and she said, "Thank you so much for your words and your workshop. I'm changing my life now. I was going to become a chemical engineer or something, and there's nothing wrong with being a chemical engineer. But she said, I'm going to go to law school now. I want to become a lawyer. Because before your talk, I had thought that there was no hope. Before your talk, I thought that we just had to accept what people were saying about Muslims. But now I know that I don't have to accept that. Now I know that I can move forward and I can help our community to overcome this." These 2 young women are taking the first steps of becoming empowered individuals that are not victims of what is going on, but are becoming leaders to redress and help and move our country forward. They are not going down in history as victims. They are going down in history as people who stood up for all of us. And it's that investment in the future that we are investing in tonight. When you reach deep into your pockets, and you will be asked to do that at some point tonight, I ask you to take an additional step. Look deeply into where you want to see this community in the future. Take that deep look. If you want a community in 5-10 years that is not ashamed, not afraid, donate generously. If you want a community that is able to resolve some of the most critical and crippling civil rights issues and cases of this era, then donate generously. If you want to see a community that is not afraid to vote and not afraid to vote its conscience to change policy in this state and across the country, then donate generously. This community, the people in this room, you are the founders of what is going to happen in 5-10 years. You are the roots of an enormous tree that is going to grow big and beautiful. And I am so happy to be here tonight. And as Linda said, I can't wait to come back here and say that I was there the night that things started to change for our community. Jazakumullah khairan.